Zeus had won the throne of Olympus, but before his rule could truly begin, a monster rose from the depths to challenge the king of the gods. The war against the Titans was over. Zeus ruled the sky. Poseidon ruled the sea. Hades ruled the underworld. And high above the mortal world, the gods had begun to gather on Mount Olympus. But the new order would not remain peaceful for long, because from the deepest powers of the ancient world came one final challenge. His name was Typhon. Typhon was the son of Gaia, the earth, and Tartarus, the great abyss beneath the world, and he was unlike any enemy Zeus had faced before. The ancient stories describe a creature so enormous that his head seemed to reach toward the stars. His body was shaped like that of a giant, but below him twisted enormous coils of serpents. From his shoulders rose countless serpentine heads. Some traditions gave him wings large enough to darken the sky. Fire flashed from his eyes. Flames poured from his mouth. And when Typhon cried out, his voices were said to sound like many creatures at once, sometimes like a man, sometimes like a lion, sometimes like a bull, sometimes like the howling of wild animals, and sometimes like something no one had ever heard before. Typhon rose from the earth and moved toward Olympus. The gods saw him coming. They saw the enormous shape crossing the land. They heard the roar of his voices. They saw fire burning around him. And the gods who had only recently defeated the Titans were terrified. They fled. One old tradition says they escaped all the way to Egypt. There, trying to hide from Typhon, they took the shapes of animals. But Zeus did not intend to surrender Olympus. He had fought too long to become king. He took the thunderbolts the Cyclopes had forged for him. Then he went to meet Typhon. The first battle began from a distance. Zeus filled the sky with thunder. Lightning struck the mountains around Typhon. Again and again, Zeus hurled his thunderbolts. The earth shook beneath them. Typhon answered with fire. He tore enormous stones from the mountains and hurled them toward Zeus. The sky filled with smoke, lightning, flame, and flying rock. But Zeus kept attacking. Thunderbolts struck Typhon's enormous body. The monster began to retreat. Zeus followed. He carried another weapon as well, a great sickle made from an unbreakable metal. When Zeus came close enough, he attacked Typhon with it. The blade struck. Typhon was wounded. And for a moment, it appeared that Zeus had already won. Typhon turned and fled. He moved eastward, with Zeus pursuing him. Eventually, Typhon reached Mount Casios near the coast of Syria. There, the monster stopped running. Zeus came after him. This time, they fought at close range, and Typhon was far more dangerous than Zeus expected. The enormous serpent coils of Typhon wrapped around the king of the gods. Zeus struggled to free himself, but Typhon held him. Then he seized the sickle from Zeus. The weapon Zeus had brought to defeat the monster was now in Typhon's hands. Typhon used it against him. He cut the sinews from Zeus's hands and feet. The thunderbolt fell silent. Zeus could no longer stand. He could no longer fight. Typhon had defeated the king of the gods. The monster lifted Zeus and carried him away across the sea. He took him to the land of Cilicia and hid him inside a cave. Then Typhon took the sinews he had removed from Zeus and wrapped them inside a bearskin. He hid them in another part of the cave, and he placed a monstrous serpent named Delphine there to guard them. Zeus remained inside the cave, helpless. His thunderbolts were useless without the strength to wield them. and somewhere beyond the cave, Typhon was free. Olympus had lost its king. But Typhon had not discovered every enemy who opposed him. Two figures came looking for Zeus: Hermes, the swift and clever messenger of the gods, and Agapan, a mysterious goat-like divine, being sometimes associated with Pan. They found the cave where Zeus had been hidden. But rescuing Zeus was not enough. They also had to recover his missing sinews, and those were guarded by Delphin. Hermes and Agapan entered the cave. They avoided the guardian. They found the bearskin, and inside it were the sinews Typhon had taken from Zeus. They stole them back. Then they returned to Zeus. His sinews were restored. Strength returned to his hands. Strength returned to his feet. Zeus stood again, and this time, Typhon would not find him helpless. Zeus returned to the sky. He found a chariot drawn by winged horses. Then he began hunting Typhon. The monster saw Zeus returning. The thunderbolts were back in his hands, and Typhon fled again. The pursuit carried them across the ancient world. Typhon reached Mount Nysa. There he encountered the Moirai, the Fates. They offered him fruit and told him that eating it would restore his strength. Typhon believed them. He ate, but the fruit did not strengthen him. It weakened him. Typhon continued fleeing. He reached the mountains of Thrace. There he made another stand. He tore enormous mountains from the earth. Then he hurled them towards Zeus. But Zeus answered with thunderbolts. Lightning struck the mountains while they were still flying through the air. The rocks crashed back onto Typhon. The monster was wounded again. Blood poured across the mountain, and according to the story, the place became known as Mount Haemus, the Bloody Mountain. But Typhon was still alive. He fled south, across the sea, towards Sicily. Zeus followed him. The chase ended near Mount Etna. Typhon could run no farther. The monster who had once defeated Zeus turned for the final battle. The sky darkened. Thunder rolled across Sicily. Typhon roared. Fire burst from him. Zeus raised the thunderbolt, and the battle began again. Lightning struck the earth. Typhon hurled stones. The mountains shook. The sea crashed against the coast. Thunderbolts fell around the monster, one after another. Typhon fought back, but he was weaker now. The wounds from the earlier battles had taken their toll. The fruit of the fates had weakened him further, and Zeus did not allow him to come close again. He attacked from above. Thunderbolt after thunderbolt struck Typhon. Finally, the monster fell. But Zeus did not simply leave him lying on the earth. He needed a prison strong enough to hold the creature who had nearly conquered Olympus. So Zeus took the enormous mass of Mount Etna and cast it down upon Typhon. The mountain buried him. Stone closed over the monster. Typhon disappeared beneath Sicily. The battle was over. Zeus returned to Olympus, but beneath Mount Etna, the ancient monster was said to remain. And Mount Etna was not a quiet mountain. Smoke rose from its summit. The earth around it trembled. And sometimes fire exploded from deep beneath the ground. To people who knew the story of Typhon, those eruptions had an explanation. Typhon was still there, buried beneath the mountain. When the earth shook, perhaps the monster was moving. When smoke rose, perhaps Typhon was breathing. And when Etna erupted, perhaps the creature who had once challenged Zeus was still struggling beneath the weight of the mountain. But he could not escape. Olympus remained above. The thunderbolt still belonged to Zeus, and the greatest monster ever to challenge his rule lay imprisoned beneath Mount Etna.